of the WNBA Finals. And so, I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. You know, I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments. And so, all I'll say is just, it's obviously in professional sports. It is said that no individual is ever greater than the league. The commissioner always has the gavel, and the shield always defends itself. But there are exceptions to every rule. And that exception has a name in the WNBA. Clark. Caitlin. Over the last year, we have seen a quiet conflict between Caitlin Clark's new wave and the WNBA Soul Guard. However, that Cold War has suddenly heated up. WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is reportedly furious behind closed doors after significant news about NBC and the future of broadcasting rights. This was more than a commercial transaction. It was an adversarial takeover of the story. The front office is apparently in a panic, realizing they have lost control of their most valuable asset since the dynamics have changed so drastically. There is more to the narrative you're going to hear than simply basketball. It has to do with money, envy, and the heartbreaking realization that the WNBA establishment made a mistake. Instead of humbling a celebrity, they gave her the kingdom's keys. According to reports, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is blowing up because she has come to terms with the difficult reality. The WNBA is not necessary for Caitlin Clark's survival. She is essential to the WNBA. Additionally, Caitlin Clark now has the ability to demand conditions because of NBC, and the commissioner is unable to stop her. We need to consider the scope of what has transpired with NBC in order to comprehend why the commissioner is allegedly losing her temper. We are aware that the WNBA negotiated a record-breaking 11-year media rights agreement for over $2 billion. This seems to be a victory for Commissioner Cathy Engelbert on paper. She may claim to have rescued the league while standing at the podium. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video. However, a different image emerges when you examine the tiny print and network behavior in more detail. For the WNBA, NBC did not pay that much. For the Caitlin Clark performance, they paid that much. There are rumors circulating that Caitlin Clark-focused programming is a key component of NBC's agenda. The WNBA's decades-old everyone is equal marketing approach does not appeal to them. They are aware that the ratings originate from a single individual, and they desire the ratings. This has caused a huge split. The 144, the notion that each roster slot is valued, is what the commissioner wants to encourage. On the other hand, NBC is using the league as a star vehicle. The network has essentially circumvented the commissioner's jurisdiction by siding so strongly with Caitlin Clark. Cathy Engelbert is unable to demand that NBC cease airing Caitlin Clark. If the stats do not support it, she cannot urge them to concentrate on the New York Liberty or the Las Vegas Aces. There was more to the announcement than simply games airing. It was a message that the networks are now in charge and that number 22 is their chosen queen. However, the commissioner had a migraine after the NBC contract. We must discuss the unrivaled league. This was meant to be the WNBA's major sisterhood moment over the summer. This 3-on-3 league, which was founded by celebrities Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, was marketed as the best way for elite athletes to earn money and maintain their fitness over the winter. They needed one thing to make it really feasible, even if they had the money, the players, and the buzz. Clark, Caitlin, unrivaled, reportedly hurled everything at her. We're talking about an offer like to that of Lionel Messi, a salary of more than $1 million, league equity, and enormous incentives. It was an offer that would be hard to turn down. Caitlin Clark was probably expected by the commissioner and the league's veterans to follow orders, accept the tick, and raise her peers' stature. Then the shocking thing happened. Caitlin Clark declined. She declined the opportunity to play with the elites and millions of dollars. The front office felt the blow of this refusal. Why? As it was a flex. By turning down Unrivaled, Caitlin Clark deprived the new league of the exposure it sorely needed by telling the establishment, "I do not need your money, and I do not need your legitimacy." It demonstrated that she is creating her own kingdom outside from the clique that has been hostile to her all year. This is a catastrophe for Cathy Engelbert. It demonstrates that Caitlin Clark is unruly and prepared to leave the table, leaving the league as a whole on its own. We must examine Cathy Engelbert's personal reputation, which has suffered greatly, in order to fully comprehend why she is allegedly blowing up. NBC was not the source of the conflict between Caitlin Clark and the commissioner. There was stillness at first. Fans saw Caitlin Clark targeted with harsh fouls and needless contact throughout the season, which often resembled hazing more than basketball. The league office was remarkably silent throughout it all. It was believed that Cathy Engelbert was reluctant to defend the youngster for fear of upsetting the more experienced players. The interview that altered everything then took place. Cathy Engelbert delivered a corporate meandering response about rivalries generating viewing when questioned about the league's toxicity and the ominous cloud of fan fights. She likened the hate speech to the time of Bird against Magic. It was a tone-deaf catastrophe. She received criticism from the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBA. Fans of Caitlin Clark attacked Cathy Engelbert. The media even turned against her. She had to apologize frantically, but it was too late. There was a void as a result of this leadership failure. It dawned on Caitlin Clark that the person in charge would not protect her. For Cathy Engelbert, the NBC collaboration is very risky because of this. Massive media giants are essentially Caitlin Clark's new guardian. The commissioner knows she bungled the bag, which is why she is upset. Instead of taking advantage of the opportunity to support the world's largest celebrity, she attempted to play politics. She is now observing from the sidelines as Caitlin Clark completely surpasses the league. It is impossible to talk about this NBC story without mentioning the basketball. This was the foundation's first significant fracture. Many saw the selection committee's decision to exclude Caitlin Clark from the Indiana Fever roster for Paris as a gatekeeping effort by the veterans. They intended to demonstrate that you must wait your turn. Hiding behind the justification of basketball, Cathy Engelbert openly endorsed the committee's decision. The narrative intensifies at this point, however. According to reports, NBC, the network that carried the basketball, was enraged. They were aware that having Caitlin Clark on the team would have broken the world record for women's basketball viewership. The WNBA establishment lost millions of dollars in potential advertising income by excluding her. Let us fast forward to the present. For the WNBA season, NBC is putting more of an emphasis on Caitlin Clark because they will not allow the old guard to cost them money once again. The commissioner is aware that the networks are still upset over the basketball mishap. The league is being forced to do what they ought to have done in the summer by this new drive to focus everything on Caitlin Clark, which is almost like retaliation from the media behemoths. Place the star on the screen. The fact that the commissioner has to oversee a locker room full of players who are allegedly furious with envy adds to her stress. The NBC revelation validates the fears of many veterans. Caitlin Clark is the sun's rising and setting. Legends like Cheryl Swoops and Diana Taurasi have spent months attempting to downplay Caitlin Clark's influence, saying that reality is approaching or refusing to give her credit for the league's expansion. However, the NBC contract is a reality check. The athletes who have been there for 10 years are not worth billions of dollars to the networks. They are covering the rookies' expenses. Cathy Engelbert is in a bad situation as a result. She must maintain harmony. The powerful players group objects to the notion of one player receiving preferential treatment. However, the commissioner is unable to dispute the economics. She finds herself caught between a disgruntled and irate workforce and NBC, a corporate partner that only gives a damn about the one player that the workers detest. Since it is a pressure cooker, it seems sense that reports claim she is about to blow up. In a world where the market has already determined the winner, she is attempting to control her ego. The internal conflict among the sports media, which cast doubt on the league's authority, is another aspect of this drama. We saw the issue with Hall of Famer and WNBA great Sheryl Swoopes. She manipulated statistics, refused to mention Caitlin Clark's name on programs, and made subtle and even overt barbs at her for months. Sheryl Swoopes was eventually forced to leave the booth for a planned game due to the intense response. The media's senior authorities made this quite obvious. Do not harm the product. Caitlin Clark is the product. Cathy Engelbert would rather live in a society that honors and protects WNBA icons. However, the networks are demonstrating that they will sever relations with anybody who poses a danger to the Golden Goose, even a legend like Sheryl Swoopes. Once again, this challenges Cathy Engelbert's authority. Every analyst and pundit receives a message from it. Get off at the stop or board the Caitlin Clark train, because the media partners will no longer put up with the hatred that the league let to develop for so long. Cathy Engelbert is losing control of the narrative. Let us put an end to the chatter and discuss the cold, hard money. The commissioner's stress stems from this. In the past, the WNBA has suffered significant financial losses. The NBA provided subsidies for more than 25 years. Then Caitlin Clark showed up. All of a sudden, venues are full. Sales of jerseys have increased by 500% because the money is available to sustain them. Charter flights are now being authorized. The commissioner is aware of how precarious the WNBA's unexpected solvency is. Nearly all of it is based on the Caitlin Clark effect. The bubble collapses if Caitlin Clark has an injury, decides to take a break, or chooses to play in Europe. There are probably terms and audience expectations in the NBC contract that depend on Caitlin Clark performing. Caitlin Clark has a lot of power because of this. The employer has the upper hand in a typical negotiation. In this case, the worker represents the whole economy. The realization that she is no longer in charge is causing Cathy Engelbert to blow out. She looks after a home that Caitlin Clark constructed. The commissioner must listen to Caitlin Clark's request to adjust the timetable, travel plans, or media procedures, since failing to do so would result in financial devastation. However, the media agreement was not the only source of conflict. The timetable itself was the problem. Fans noticed something odd early in the season. The schedule for the Indiana Fever was harsh. More games against the league's hardest clubs in the first month than almost anybody else. Many onlookers thought it was a setup. In order for the She Needs to adapt narrative to resonate, it seemed as if the league was tossing Caitlin Clark into the deep end in the hopes that she would drown. If that was the plan, it was a complete failure. Caitlin Clark persevered through the ordeal and prospered. The scheduling dynamics will probably shift now that NBC is involved. In order to keep Caitlin Clark fresh for national television, networks will require primetime slots, rest days, and matches that maximize viewership. The network executives will now have to account to the commissioner's office, which determines the schedule. The schedule is no longer a tool that Cathy Engelbert can utilize to maintain league balance. The commissioner's ability to uphold the 144 equality policy will be further undermined by the schedule's focus on a single player. The commissioner is sweating because of another party in this equation, the sponsors. Although companies like Wilson, Nike, and Gatorade are investing heavily in the league, Caitlin Clark is the main focus of their marketing. In particular, Caitlin Clark and Nike have a huge contract that supposedly exceeds her WNBA pay. Because of this strange situation, Caitlin Clark may be more devoted to her sponsors than to the league. Caitlin Clark will miss the unrivaled league if Nike instructs her to do so. She conducts a halftime interview if NBC requests one. The commissioner is gradually coming to the realization that she has less control over her star player than the corporate behemoths. Securing sponsorships for the league is Cathy Engelbert's responsibility. However, the league office seems unnecessary when the sponsors are just interested in the player. The explosion we are hearing about is probably a response to these. Sponsors going directly to Caitlin Clark's representation instead of Cathy Engelbert. Being left out of the loop in her own sport is embarrassing for a commissioner. we must also discuss the supporters. The Clarkies, the millions of new supporters, are distinct from the WNBA's devoted, albeit tiny, fan base. They are devoted to Caitlin Clark rather than the WNBA. They have publicly denounced the other players, the officials, and the commissioner. Fans are rebelling against Cathy Engelbert. Thousands of comments on social media demand her resignation each time she makes a mistake. These fans feel empowered by the NBC News. It confirms their view that Caitlin Clark is the sole important factor. The commissioner is attempting to avoid upsetting the millions of new fans who foot the price while also appeasing the legacy fans who detest the shift. The balancing act is unachievable. In essence, the NBC announcement gives the new fans legitimacy. This further distances Cathy Engelbert from the fundamental WNBA culture from which she originated by telling them, "You were correct. She is the star." She is losing both the public's faith and the locker room. How the league responded to the allegations of racism and toxicity was one of the most contentious parts of this story. Instead of addressing the behavior on the court, several members of the media and the league misrepresented the fans' harsh treatment of Caitlin Clark as poisonous. It was a deflection strategy, but that strategy is no longer effective. The league can no longer hide behind specialized storylines because NBC is bringing a broad worldwide audience to the games. There will be 4K cameras and close examination of the comments. Next season, there will be more than simply a Twitter argument if a player takes a cheap shot at Caitlin Clark. The Today Show will have a segment on it. The commissioner is aware of this. She is aware that she must improve the league's reputation due to NBC's increasing scrutiny. The casual spectator will not put up with any more roughness that verges on assault. Further internal strife results from Cathy Engelbert's forced crackdown on the same veterans she has been attempting to defend. What comes next, then? The question that is driving the eruption is that one. When the commissioner looks at the 2025 season, she sees an unfamiliar environment. The Golden State Valkyries will join the league. The pressure is at an all-time high and expansion is taking place. Rumor has it that Caitlin Clark's team is aware of their power and may begin to make demands. Everyone travels privately. There is improved security and the officiating has changed. A newbie who made demands used to be laughed out of the room. However, if Caitlin Clark shows signs of discontent, NBC executives would probably call the commissioner in a matter of minutes to ask, "How do we repair this?" Cathy Engelbert is no longer in charge. In order to avoid being fired by the networks and executives, she works as a middle manager to maintain the satisfaction of the talent. Even if her title stays the same, it is a degrading reduction in real authority. The image gets quite obvious as we finish this. The statement from NBC was the last straw that brought the former WNBA to an end. According to reports, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is upset at being outwitted. The market required a superstar despite her efforts to keep the communal everyone gets a prize method in place. Caitlin Clark has shown that she is the center of attention for the WNBA by gaining the support of the largest media corporations in the world and turning down the frantic requests of the unrivaled league. The front office explosion is a sign of a paradigm change. The WNBA is no longer a case of charity. It is a major company. Additionally, you do not resist the money in huge company. The money is Caitlin Clark. It does not matter anymore if the commissioner is upset, the veterans are, envious, or the detractors are vocal. There will be television coverage of the revolution. Caitlin Clark will lead it, and it will air on NBC. The last unanswered issue is whether Commissioner Cathy Engelbert will be the next victim of the Caitlin Clark period, or whether she can adjust to this new environment. However, it was not the whole tale. There are rumors of another power transfer approaching, just when you think everything has calmed. The Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBA, itself may get involved. However, there is a tale for another day. Please share your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe, and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the next one. After you click the video on the screen,